showtime.
It's showtime. And here we go.
Welcome into another episode of the Movie Geek Podcast. I'm your host, George T., and this is my review of Jurassic World Rebirth, and a look at the franchise as a whole and where we go from here. I have my views, and I'm sure Hollywood will see it differently, or maybe they will see it my way and many other people's ways. So we shall see. Also, I'll give you some insight as to Steven Spielberg's take on this film, and hopefully this will be enjoyable for you. As I do my reviews, you may like the movie, you may not like the movie, so it's up to you. Like, comment, subscribe, please do so. Share if you want to. I know you guys are doing it. I know you guys are watching, so definitely hit that subscribe button, even the like button here or there. So let us get started. So we get Jurassic World Rebirth, which was the number one movie at the box office, making $92 million over the weekend, $147.8 million domestically since its opening on Wednesday, and then $320 million in global box office since Wednesday. So it is a moneymaker. Most of these movies have been moneymakers. That is not the key to success, though, as we will get into the other movies as I rank them, and we'll go from there. So let us put in the characters that we are going to focus on in this film. We get Scarlett Johansson, who, by the way, has become the number one grossing actor of all time, actor or actress. Congratulations, Scarlett Johansson. Obviously, Marvel has helped out a tremendous amount in her career as far as that's concerned, but she, has done a lot of other work as well. So hats off to her for doing that. I saw that in a report over the weekend. Hey, awesome. And I know she's not going to be a part of the Marvel universe going forward. So she's got plenty of other projects. She's done a ton of good work. And keep it up, Scarlett. She plays Zora Bennett, who is a mercenary for hire. Jonathan Rainey plays Dr. Henry Loomis, who is obviously a dinosaur expert. Mushala Ali is Duncan Kincaid. He is best friends with Zora. And Rupert Friend is obviously the evil moneymaker in this movie. Martin Krebs, he is into pharmaceuticals for Engen, who obviously, and I'll get into all that afterwards. We also have a family who gets kind of stuck in the middle of all of this. David Incano plays Xavier. He is the boyfriend of Teresa, played by Luna Blaze, who plays Teresa Delgado. We have Manuel Carvo Rufo plays Ruben. Sorry, I'm butchering names. You know I do. And Adriana Miranda plays Isabel Delgado. These four are on a boat just in the middle of the tropics and runs into some dinosaurs. Yikes. Okay, so those are the 8 players in this film. So we start with Garth Edwards, who is the director of this film. And this is kind of an homage to Steven Spielberg. This is kind of his love letter, or giving flowers, if you would, to the original Jurassic Park. And subsequently, like I said earlier, I will tell you what Steven had to say to Garth as well. And they were pretty positive, and as kind of a mentoring for him. So, in the beginning, Garth Edwards talks about, or in the beginning, the epilogue shows the, um, you know, we started in 1993 in Jurassic Park, the failed experiment of Jurassic Park, and then subsequently, some years later, there was another island that was discovered, but there was little known of another island. So again, this island is way away from the others. This is where we see the engine people trying to do mutations on dinosaurs. Okay, we've already seen that Jurassic Park and Jurassic World were, you know, engineering these dinosaurs. And we saw in Jurassic World some mutations of those. But we're actually going even further with mutation, and it is kind of a scary thought that we would make dinosaurs that were even more scarier or more uh, out of this world crazy. Like, and we'll get to all that in a sec. So, just on that merit, you're thinking, okay, this is going to be somewhat of a bad movie. Even though we see that Garth has also introduced the fact that people are getting a little tired of um, dinosaurs in the mainland. There's not enough interest. Yeah, rightfully so. We've seen 6 movies. We all know it's bad to go to an island that you're not supposed to go to. We know that dinosaurs don't really exist anymore, only in bad movies. Or, I can't really say all of them are bad. The first original Jurassic Park was obviously very, very good, and it kind of brought to life the idea of fossilizing, bringing fossils to life and seeing if we could synthesize into dinosaurs and see how they would react. But as we've gone on, we've seen why. So, right out of the gate, we are on the island, and we have a whole team of scientists running around in hazmat suits, and we see some chambers of some dinosaurs that they are experimenting on. Some of them are kind of creepy right away, so you know that they are already deforming these dinosaurs, or they're mutating into something worse. And so one of the scientists, and kind of an homage to Dennis from the original, he is snacking on a Snickers bar, and he leaves his wrapper. The pressure of the uh, containment area starts pushing the Snickers wrapper toward the most dangerous chamber, obviously, and you know where this is going to go. So, he and the other scientist turn the keys to the pressurized room, and lo and behold, before the door closes, the Snickers bar goes through, and then as they open the next gate, the Snickers bar wrapper grabs a hold of the door at the bottom and stops it from closing all the way, which throws everything into a panic. The barriers are starting to break down, And you're thinking to yourself, man, like the Snickers commercials, you get you're not yourself when you're hungry. Well, apparently the door works the same way. Okay, that was a bad joke, but whatever. So now we see running around like crazy, and now this big dinosaur is now on the loose. Its containment field is broken, and you remember this clip from the trailer. You see the big white door, and the two scientists are on either side, and something large comes out from the red lighting, and it is a massive dinosaur, which we are going to see prominently toward the end. It is ginormous. It has a very large head and short arms, and you're like, wow, this thing is just outrageous. Like, wow, like, what is this? Like, what combined DNA is in this thing? And we'll get to that later on. So obviously, it is hungry. It grabs the scientist and just chomps him to bits. And this is where we come into present day, where it is a standstill traffic jam. And we know why, because the dinosaur is dying on the streets. And again, this is where Garth is trying to pay homage to what has been before and kind of tie in the loose ends from the last movie, where obviously the dinosaurs were roaming around aimlessly around the US. In comes Martin, who is stuck in the traffic, and Zora just happens to kind of pop right into the back seat of his vehicle. They start discussing terms about what her next assignment will be, and she's like, we're going to where and why? And he's like, well, this is very important for the medical community. If we can get a stranglehold on cures for, and I forgot what the disease was, I cannot remember, but they wanted to corner the market on it all and obviously make her very, very rich. So they offered her a blank check with lots of zeros, and she's on board. There we go. Because if she just said no, the movie would be over, and God forbid, we'd have to go sit through this. So next we get to, we see Dr. Henry Loomis. He is in the facility in the museum where they're taking down the dinosaur exhibit, and he is proposed this opportunity to go to this island that is highly illegal, but he would be able to study and retrieve DNA from the dinosaurs that are there. Well, automatically, we already know how this is going to turn out. For some of the people, obviously the main characters survive in all 6 movies. We all know how this is going to wind up. So, if he had just said no, movie be over. Well, we move on. So he decides so in a very interesting manner, where he sits down and has to think about it, chewing on Altoids very, very loudly, chomping on them. And it makes for a little bit of humor. And they're like, okay, are we done yet? And he's like, okay, let's go. So we come upon the Delgados just sailing, and Xavier and Teresa had been spending most of their time down in the bottom, in the cabin down below, as typical teenagers or college kids. I'm not sure exactly what their age is, but I would assume around, high school seniors or even college freshmen or whatever. The dad is getting tired, and he wants to know when Xavier is coming up to relieve him. And he comes up shirtless, and the dad makes a joke of, like, did you bring a shirt? Are you going to be helping me with this? And he's kind of that typical lazy, you yeah, I'll help you, but right now I want to get a tan or whatever. The daughter volunteers, and he's like, no. The dad's like, no, 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 I'll do it. It's fine, not a big deal. So this is where the little one, Isabella, is up there, and she starts to notice something, and Teresa then notices some weird-looking fins in the water, and she's wondering, what could it be? The next thing you know, the boat is hit by the Mosasaurus, a very large megalodon kind of dinosaur that, in an homage again to Steven Spielberg and Jaws, this scene is ripped right out of Jaws, where the Mosasaurus knocks the boat over, and the dad and Xavier are in the water, and the dad winds up on top of the boat with the girls, and Xavier now has to swim toward the boat, and what's gonna, you're like, oh my god, this is right out of Jaws. It's so crazy. And now it's just a matter of, is he going to make it? Like in the original one, where the diver got knocked off the boat, he winds up getting chomped. Or in the second one, when the little boy winds up in the water and he winds up being able to get up onto the boat. So he survives, obviously, as the dinosaur moves on. But the fins are still there from the Spinosauruses, which have like a radar, like showing where this Mosasaurus is. So as Zora and Duncan and the crew are headed out toward the island that we should not be going toward, they hear the distress signal of the Delgados saying that they have capsized, something has hit them, something large, and so Duncan, Zora, and Martin all have to make a choice at this point, whether to continue to the island, which they are very, very close to, or go help the family. Duncan decides at the last minute that they're going to go help the family, because if this is true, they don't have long to survive. The Coast Guard is never going to get out there before, because they didn't know if it was attacking the boat or didn't know what was in the water and now is swum away. They wind up reaching the family. The family comes aboard their cruiser, and the Mosasaurus was tagged and now is after their boat. And again, you'll see in the trailer, if you've seen the trailer, the Mosasaurus basically running alongside and then trying to tip that boat as well. Dr. Loomis has got this gun that will shoot this dart that will extract the blood or DNA or whatever, I think it was blood, and then shoot up in the air with a parachute, and then they'll be able to find it afterwards. So they had to get close to it in order to do it, and it made sure it was close enough as Reuben, so Henry was going to shoot it, and Zora was like, "Are you sure you can handle this?" And he was like, "I don't think I can." So Zora takes over. Just as Zora's about to shoot, it knocks into the boat, kind of knocking her down, and she's kind of hanging off the trim, and that's when the dinosaur tries to leap up, a mouth only, to try to, chomp her. He fails. She winds up shooting him eventually, and then the capsule goes into the air, and they're able to retrieve it. But they're not out of the danger zone yet, because as they have to make a choice to to get around, or head straight for the islands, try to get away from it. But it is chasing it and chasing the boat, and the Spinosaurus are not helping. We also so they know that if they get to the shallow water toward the island, that the pursuing dinosaurs will go away because they can't get into shallow water. So obviously, right before the shallow water, the boat is starting to take on water as it has been damaged up, and Teresa tries to call for help, but Martin says no because obviously, clearly, they're not supposed to be there, and he has mentioned it several times that they are acting illegally and could be arrested for for this. Duh. Well, then again, we're not even supposed to be doing this to dinosaurs, but we move on. The boat is hit again. Teresa now slides out the door. Martin has a chance to save her, but does not. She winds up falling into the water. Xavier finds out that she's in the water. He decides to jump in and save her, while the family looks on in terror, and the rest of the boat tries to get away. The boat lands and onto the shore, and they all wash up eventually. Now, the dad and Isabella also had jumped off the boat before it crashed, and they are reunited in the shallow water as a family. The dad, who has been skeptical of Xavier, thanks him for his heroic deed. He is also injured in the process of getting to shore, but later on we don't really see him struggle. It's kind of a continuity issue at that point where he is not struggling as much as they're walking around the terrain. So now we have two stories going on. We have the mercenaries and their mission, and obviously the Delgados, who are trying to survive and trying to find their way to a village that was talked about, as Kincaid mentioned, that there is one in the middle. So they are following the power lines because every station needs power. So they are following that. They are followed around by a little dinosaur a little later on that Isabella decides to take with her along the way, which I thought at the time was a very bad idea. This is a Aqualopus. It's a little crossbreed between a Triceratops and a Bronchiosaurus. So it's so little cute, and I'm like, it's merchandise. Guaranteed, kids are going to see this little dinosaur and be like, I want one of these dinosaurs. So there's that little, hey, I want to throw this in, and I'm going to make a lot more money with toy sales or plushie sales. And she starts carrying him around. We know from Jurassic World 3, it's usually a bad idea when you take a dinosaur away from its parents, as we saw the the pterodactyls trying to get its egg back when the dinosaur expert, not named Alan Grant decides to take the egg for himself and put it in his backpack. So I was thinking this was a bad idea, but it wound up working out okay. So they wind up, on their own, and they're following their stuff. So nothing really happens. They're just trying to survive. So a lot of dialogue in there, and it's kind of like, all right, whatever. So now we go to the mercenaries. And as their stuff starts to float upon, because they started packaging all up and it winds up floating onto the shore, trouble starts, where the Spinosaurs are also obviously land dinosaurs, come out of the water and start taking out the mercenary crew. Obviously, Zora, Duncan, and Martin and Henry survive and have to run into the jungles and get through the perilous journey along the way. So they are going along their business, and the Delgados are on one side of the island and they're on the other, and eventually they're going to meet up. And as you saw in the trailer, there is the homage to the original with the T-Rex. So, the T-Rex is just kind of lounging on one of the riverbanks, and Teresa is trying to secure passage down the river by getting a life raft that she saw in a disabled boat on the shore. Well, we kind of know why it was probably disabled, because there is that T-Rex laying right next to the ship. So she tries to drag this big, heavy raft across a wooden dock, and the father and Xavier are telling her, "Please don't open it, don't open it." And as she drags it, the dinosaur starts to wake up. And as she inflates the lifeboat on the dock, it stands up, and then it comes down, and the dinosaur disappears. So the T-Rex now is in hunting mode, and we know where this is going to go. They jump in the raft and try to get down. And again, from the trailer, you see the dinosaur T-Rex go after the family, basically taking the raft out, trying to chomp them as they go down the river. And there's the tense moment where Ella is stuck under the raft as it's going down. The rest of them have swam down or being pushed down by the tide flowing of the river until they get to a rock formation where there's a little opening. The T-Rex grabs the raft, and we all think that Isabella is still attached to it, even though I kind of knew she probably wasn't because she was still in this movie. She winds up, escaping underneath, and the T-Rex goes away because there's nobody moving anymore and there's nothing to eat there, so he moves along. Meanwhile, on the other side of the island, we have the mercenaries looming in to their Titanosaurus area. These are a mixed breed of homivores, a Brontosaurus and a raptor combination. It's just very weird. They move as slowly, but they are very aware of their situation. So they're not going to be in danger as they are watching these majestic creatures with the very, very long tails. So I don't know exactly what else they morphed these two with. but you know, they get their sample and they move on. Now they are looking for the pterodactyl uh, area, which basically now they've uh, renamed them, but they're basically pterodactyls. They're terrifyingly more um, pterodactyls. So they are now having to rappel down this very large mountain range because of the opening for the where these creatures are kind of nesting is about halfway down the mountainside. So um, Henry has never done this before, and he is very skittish about it as Zora comes down and is like, "Hey, you know, you're gonna be okay," and so on, and making cracking jokes or whatever. Uh, Zora and Henry kind of have this unspoken little love story here. Uh, Duncan and Zora were discussing on the boat on the way in that Zora needed to move on from something that um, had to probably do with a love interest, and also Duncan had to move on from uh, a loss of a child and a separation. And again, I didn't want to go into a whole lot of dialogue because there's just so much dialogue in here that is kind of irrelevant or just trying to set up a story. So in that regard, it's like, we'll skip. So they wind up extracting the blood from the egg in there, and then as you saw in the trailer, the pterodactyl thing comes into there and tries to eat them. Uh, there is one other mercenary who doesn't speak English, he's French. He's also down there as well, but he tries to rappel up and is eaten up by the pterodactyl. Uh, Henry and Zora wind up down at the bottom, and Martin and Duncan have to race down to the bottom through a secret cave that they just discovered, trying to get away from the pterodactyl. So they all meet up at the end. Now they have all their DNA samples. So now it's on to this to the site. So I'm going to skip through a bunch, and we'll get right to the point where they all meet up. So they are waiting for a helicopter to come and rescue them. They were being tracked the whole time by a crew of people that were working on, obviously, um, off grid to save them in case anything went wrong. So now they are just waiting for the helicopter because they had 2 days when they didn't radio back in to know that they should go to the settlement. So Teresa at that point is telling the Duncan and Zora and Henry that Martin tried to kill her by she could have saved her but didn't. And that's when Martin pulls the gun, and now kind of chaos starts. And you're like, okay, you know, what's going to come next? Well, now we're going to start to see some dinosaurs. Yes, a lot of dinosaurs. And of course, the big one that we mentioned at the very, very beginning. So now we have a velociraptor crossed with a, uh, a Spinosaurus type thing, and it is rather uh, hideous, but it is fast and it is very, uh, very, very smart. Obviously, velociraptors, we've learned, are very, very smart dinosaurs, and now stalks the Delgado family again in a convenience store that just happens to be on this island, and it's so weird to just kind of see. But I'm guessing that the only reason why it's there is because of the village and the research facility. But it just kind of doesn't fit because wasn't it wasn't a park per se. So it just kind of thrown in there, maybe as an homage to Jurassic Park being an all-inclusive kind of park thing, or like in Jurassic World where you had all the dining establishments before you went to see the dinosaurs. So you got that little Easter egg in there. So now we get Martin trying to take the samples and get onto the helipad as the helicopter is inbound. But as the rest of the crew is being chased around by these dinosaurs, Martin is trying to get away, and he gets into a Jeep and starts driving around the park for some reason. I don't know. Henry sees that the plane is taking off and decides to trying to find the flare guns to let the helicopter know that, hey, we're here, you need to come back. And so they see the flare go off. He is the only one that um, is on the platform at that point, but as the flare comes down, we start to see the helicopter turn around, but we only see the helicopter. We don't really hear it anymore, so we only see the spotlight. And then as soon as the flare drops, you see this big, big monster that we saw at the beginning, and that was called a D-Rex. Yes, a D-Rex. So this thing is enormous. It has four appendages or legs. I want to say appendages because they're not technically evolved legs. They're just weird looking. And then they've got two. It's got two T-Rex arms. So this thing has 6 appendages, and now it has a very large cranium. Uh, think back to the Rancor monster from Star Wars Return of the Jedi. Also, a combination of xenomorph alien, where it is grand and massive and has multiple appendages. Because again, if you remember the alien queen, she had, 4 legs and 2 little T-Rex arms. So, and a very large tail. So you've got the Rancor and this xenomorph alien queen hybrid, which is also a hybrid of T-Rex, uh, just, Velociraptor, um, and just, there's just so many dinosaur DNAs in this thing. And it is just enormous. And winds up, uh, you know, taking out Martin, and luckily, by chance, eats Martin enough that he chopped off from the elbow so that the briefcase that he had put on his wrist with the handcuffs drops to the ground so that they had it. And Henry and Zora now had control of the uh, the DNA and blood samples that Engine was going to use, and as Henry had said, made money for the rich people, or was able to give these pharmaceuticals to rich people, and the rest of us would not get it. So now, while this is going on, the family and Zora, Duncan, and Henry are being chased in a scene that out of Aliens. Um, if you remember when they uh, were trying to escape the facility and they were going through the access tunnels to get outside, you kind of had that vibe where they were trying to get through the sewer system um, and get out of the building. So I was like, okay, this is kind of an homage to Aliens as well in that regard. So obviously, the ending is they wind up, getting off the island uh, by uh, finding a little dock with a boat. Duncan makes a courageous move by using flares because obviously this thing is part T-Rex as well, so it only goes by movement. As everybody is standing still, he is waving it so that he can get them on board. And he tells Zora, "Take the family, get off the island. I, I'll be fine." As he takes off into the water and goes ashore. Uh, Zora at that point thinks like he could be dead, and starts to cry. Henry's like, "We gotta go. We gotta get off this island. We gotta get, you know, we we gotta get help. We gotta get help for these people." So they start to take off, and then we see the climactic conclusion where Duncan is now face to face with this D-Rex, and then you hear some screaming, but you also see the flare going. So you're like, okay, Duncan's dead. Well, in a homage to Jaws again, uh, where we see Duncan fire off a flare, and the boat turns around and picks Duncan up. They thought he was dead. So this is kind of an homage to when, uh, after Martin kills the first shark, and there's that moment where the doctor comes up and he says, "What about Quinn?" And he's done. Or the last movie, which is absolutely horrendous, but Jaws 4, The Revenge, where the son sees his friend who was taken off the boat by the shark and was eating him, had survived. Like, again, just kind of like, okay, that's fine. We're throwing elements of other movies in there. So we have an homage to Jaws in a lot of ways, and homage to the original Jurassic Park. So in conclusion, this movie was okay. It was okay. And I will rank them very shortly. But it is worth a watch. And if you have been a fan of the Jurassic Park and World series, this will be entertaining for you. And you'll see some Easter eggs. And I say that because when it was being tested, Spielberg had seen it and went back and talked to Garth about some things where he wanted to limit the Easter eggs and also the references to the original Jurassic Parks. So, in other words, focus on Jurassic World because that's what your title is, but don't mention like the Jurassic Park angle because you're not actually directly you know talking about Jurassic Park anymore. You're talking about Jurassic World. So he made some subtle changes there. But also, again, it is giving flowers to Spielberg in that he was the inspiration for doing this. So let's rank these movies as we go. So we have 7 total Jurassic movies. Jurassic Park 3 is the worst by far. However, it's George's favorite. I don't know why he likes this movie. But Taylor Leone, William Macy are in this film, and obviously Sam Neill comes back, and I don't know, it's just terrible. Then you had the last one, Jurassic World Domination. Just it's almost a throwaway at this point, where they were like, okay, Fallen Kingdom, all right, let's just do, Domination, and let's just get it over with. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom would have been next, and then Jurassic Park 2 Lost World. So the top 3. So this one makes my third one. I think this was good enough to be the third best, which isn't saying much, but it is what it is. Jurassic World, the original one, is number 2 because it was kind of a rebirth to, the classic Jurassic Park. And then obviously number 1 is Jurassic Park by far. I remembered when this movie came out in '93, I was a junior in high school. And I remembered it opening on my birthday weekend. And I had my mom take me to see it on the Friday morning when it opened. So I skipped school that day to see this movie. And it is such a timeless classic, and it is such an amazing movie. And it will always be number 1. No matter how much money these movies make, it'll still be number 1 to me. So where does this franchise go from here? Well, there is no direct setup to a sequel. Now, it doesn't mean that the studios will say, hey, you know what, maybe we should make a sequel. My opinion is this is a good jumping off point where we should say goodbye to dinosaurs and making these movies. It's just to the point now where we're 7 movies in, and it just, what more could we do? What more could we do at this point? I mean, we just over-mutated dinosaurs in this one. Where could we go from here? Hi, we have a visitor. We have a visitor. Hi, say hi. He wanted to join us. So that is my review of Jurassic World Rebirth, and we don't need any more dinosaur movies. Let's hope this is the last one. But again, studios can do whatever they want. We know that. So, do you want to wave goodbye and go roar? Can you do a roar? Can you do a roar for me? Can you do a roar for me? No? Okay. That being said, everyone, like, comment out. We're going to say goodbye. Okay, bye-bye. I will see you all at the movies.
You like that, baby? Let him know where that came from, yeah!
See you next time. Bye.
Waiting for you. Goodbye. 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 Hasta la vista, baby.
That's all, folks.